the issues of human trafficking. How you see the present scenario of Sikkim's context to child trafficking or human trafficking?
When you're looking at the Northeast, even for Sikkim in context, we face a lot of international border. The economy is tourism. Wherever there is a tourism, state, there's also all kind of exploitation that takes place if there's no good, if there's no higher vigilance. So in the context of Sikkim, it's not only a source point, but it's also a destination point, because you still find young children being brought from across the border of Nepal, Bangladesh, and other states, interstate as well, who are being, employed as child labor. Now, these child labor are either brought by middlemen or they're being trafficked by middlemen, and in the exchange of money, that is also child trafficking, So that is where Sikkim is, and Sikkim as a state does not even have a tourism policy, which is indeed a concern, because the more you progress ahead in building up the economy of the state and you're promoting it through tourism, it becomes a mandate for the state to ensure that there is a policy that protects women and children. And in the larger belt, if we look at the Look East policy, and you're looking at opening of the border trade, we also need to see what kind of resources is available in opening up the border trade, and what are the support system which is available. Now these are also very tricky. I mean, comparatively, if you look, we are just consumer to Southeast Asia products. We are not basically traders, So in that, it makes, when these highways and roads open, it makes women and children very vulnerable,
Recently, the Department of Labour of Government of Sikkim conducted a survey, and according to the survey, it was revealed that more than 300 children are deployed as a child labour as a domestic help in various establishments and houses, which they have been brought from either from Darjeeling or the areas of Duars. How can we combat this situation?
Now, first, like I said, when we have a tourism policy in the state, we have to ensure that it has to be children sensitive. Now, the Juvenile Justice Act 2006, which is amended, it says that children should not be employed in any kind of private establishment or even domestic maid. So when you look at the CRC, Child Rights Convention, or the Juvenile Justice Act, it says children till the age of 18, should not be employed. Now, my concern over the other aspect is, if we have to address the issue, the government will need to ensure that under the Act, Juvenile Justice Act 2006, they need to, issue notices that there will be a fine, because that's part of the law. Right. So they cannot employ children at all. And in the context of tourism, the tourism policy also will have to look that under the pretext of promotion of tourism, exploitation of children should not be happening within the state itself. So that's where Sikkim needs to look further, needs to look ahead.
According to the sources, I also came to know you to have carried several rescue operations, and someone was telling me about the girls from Sikkim you have rescued. Tell us about the experience and about the rescue operation.
We have the Meghalaya model, a model which I've mentioned to you, which I'm also an Ashoka Fellow. It's a model of networking, between state partners and allied organization, the police department and social welfare. In this, there was cases in which Dr. Doma Bhutia was intervening, in which the model was utilized at the optimum, and girls was rescued from Sikkim and they were being brought back. And this is in partnership with Care and Justice Mission of Mumbai, which is also our national partners. So in that...
So Mumbai was the destination?
Yeah, Mumbai was the destination point. And this has been quite a landmark, because the trafficker was also booked under ITPA, Immoral Trafficking Prevention Act, and also the trafficker is behind bars and got an imprisonment for 17 years. So it's also bring about that it's just not about prevention, it's not about rescue operation, but it's also about prosecution, how, a proactiveness in the law or proactiveness of the intervention can ensure that, the traffickers are booked, because unless until you book the traffickers, then, in one way you're trying to prevent, and the other way the trafficker is still going to be, involved in trafficking, young children and young women.
Don't you think rehabilitation is one of the biggest factor? Because once you rescue the girls, there is a process. You can't send directly to their parents. So don't you think still Sikkim lacks a rehabilitation center, a kind of a counseling center?
Yes. rescue is not the end process of addressing child trafficking or human trafficking. It also requires a follow-up support, and one of the major follow-up support is a rehabilitation package. Rehabilitation package for short term, we need to ensure that there is a shelter home which give the facility in terms of counseling, health care, vocational training, and so on. Even education, linkages for education through networking. But of course, the final end is reintegration of the child back into the community or into the family. Over and above, it becomes a state responsibility that these shelter homes are being set by the state, or they could be set through NGOs where the state is supporting financially. But the constraint would be that if an NGO sets a shelter home, very often what happens is that when the money is being funded late from the government, then sustaining becomes an issue. Right. So what the state, under the JJ Act, they're supposed to have a shelter home. So it becomes a need. To start with, I think state of Sikkim needs to have a proper shelter home so that rehabilitation packages are also being taken care after a child is being trafficked.
During this entire process of rescue, in perspective to Sikkim, what kind of cooperation did you got from the state department, basically?
The fact is that the law enforcement, under our capacity building training for law enforcement, has been quite proactive in the sense that there has been a lot of sensitization training program, a lot of training program that had been taking place, and then these training program has also evolved in the development of a handbook in 2006, in which it was a handbook for, a handbook for law enforcement on trafficking in person. This handbook is, it's a handbook that would be available for each police training center in each states of the Northeast as a curriculum, which is being applied, and it's quite a landmark that is being quite a good achievement, and we also being used in every police station of a state. It is actually simplifying the law, and in how the booking of a case in human trafficking by applying multiple law can enhance the fact that the victim will get more justice, and at the same time looking that a lot of law enforcement are not so well trained, and you can't expect them to look at law and legal books all the time. And so a simple handbook helped them to book a case, and this is one aspect that the law enforcement has been quite cooperative. I know there's still a long way to go, but then the machinery of this law enforcement has been quite cooperative. We still need a lot of cooperation from other departments as well, which need to work collectively together. So cooperation has come and emerged out of the long-term intervention and the partnership that we've had over the years.
Asha, you also have been involved in many other organizations. You are a member of National Women Commission. Let's talk about something about the women empowerment.
Yes, I mean, being as a ex-vice chairperson of the Meghalaya State Women's Commission and also being in the expert committee of the National Commission for Women, and the different roles at the different levels that have been taken, I mean, has been an experience by itself when we talk about women empowerment as a whole.
But do you think at this 21st century still a disparity between male gender, female gender still exists in your opinion?
Yeah, in terms of gender equality, it is a conceived notions where culturally we always looked at, men being more superior than women. And I think that's the upbringing that we are, being brought up, and that's the way the culture itself has, imbibed these principles in us to see things. But in this century where education has been an optimum important, we do see that women are progressing ahead, and there has been a lot of balances because both men and women are working. The concept of nuclear family is emerging very, very strongly. And if both the partners are working, then definitely, at the end of the day, what really happened is there has to be a gender balance, in terms of, complementing and supplementing each other. So it is, of course, I won't say it's disappeared, but over and above, if you looked at violence against women, it all happened again because of the gender imbalances, So the context of gender has to emerge culturally. It has to be understood that both men and women are equal in terms of its work and, abilities to do things, the strength and others. The only aspect is you cannot define gender from a physical strength. It's all about, equality in a different form. And I think that is, coming up with education, with media into the focus, with a different law. But it needs a lot of awareness that women would come up and start ensuring that, yes, there's a gender equality, is it? all that.
And what about the domestic violence against women? In Sikkim also recently we had a survey that domestic violence